Princess stood at the tall crystal window of her palace chamber. She watched the transport ship leave the landing platform. It moved slowly at first, then faster. Soon it became a small dot in the black sky. This was the 23rd ship to depart. 23 suitors had come to the palace. 23 times her father, the emperor, had presented her as the future bride for great alien leaders. 23 times they had looked at her, spoken with her, and then left. None of them had said yes. The other palace servants did not meet eyes anymore. They had stopped doing that 5 ships ago. The council advisors who used to smile at her now spoke in quiet voices when she passed, was no longer the pride of the empire. She had become its shame. Her father stood in the doorway. Emperor was a tall man with silver skin that caught the light like polished metal. His eyes were violet, the same color as, but his were older and harder. He had ruled the people for 50 years. He had built their power across the galaxy, and now he could not even find a husband for his daughter. The leader has decided to return to his home world, said. His voice was flat. No feeling lived in those words. He said that your genetic line is not strong enough for his bloodline. Did not turn from the window. She watched the stars. The stars did not care about genetic lines. They did not care about power or bloodlines or the future of empires. They simply burned. How did he know my genetic line was weak? She asked. He only spent 3 hours with me. The people read your body structure the moment you entered the room, said. They can see inside biological beings without using any machine. They told me your bones lack the density they need for their race. Your muscle structure is too soft. Your organs would not produce the strength they want in their children. Had heard this before, not the same words but the same idea. Too soft, too weak, not good enough. What did the warrior say? She asked. She was trying to remember all the reasons. If she could collect them all, maybe she could understand what was broken inside her body. He said you could not survive their combat trials, said. He said that any bride must be able to defend herself and her children. You would fail the first week. They had said something different. They said her blood was not pure enough. The crystalline species said her body would not adapt to their world's gravity. The one said she was too fragile. They could break her just by holding her hand too hard. One by one, the rejections had come. Each one had felt like a stone placed on her chest, now could barely breathe. I want to speak with the medical team, said. I want to know what is wrong with my body. Nothing is wrong with your body, said. This was the first time she heard real feeling in his voice. It was anger. Your body is perfect for our people. You are strong, but you are not compatible with the other species in the galaxy. That is the problem. Then why did you promise me to them? Asked. The words came out sharper than she intended. Why did you tell me I would be the bridge between our people? Why did you say I would be the most important princess in history? Was quiet for a long time. Because I believed it was true, he said. I believed that somewhere in the galaxy there was a species that would see your value. I believed that you would be the key to building peace between our worlds. He turned and left the room, watched his reflection in the window as he walked away. She did not turn to follow him. There was nothing left to follow. That night sat in the palace library. The books around her contained the history of her people. They recorded 10,000 years of dominance, wars won, enemies defeated, species absorbed into their empire. The people were the strongest in the known galaxy. But they could not find a husband for their princess. Read the old stories. She read about great warriors who had married into other empires. She read about queens who had brought peace between warring species. She read about princesses who had changed the course of history through their unions. None of those princesses had been rejected. None of them had been sent back to their rooms while the suitors returned to their home worlds. The library keeper, an old named Castellan, approached her table. His skin was no longer bright silver. Age had turned it gray. His eyes were still violet, but they held sadness now. "The council meets tomorrow morning," Castellan said. "They will decide your future. Emperor has called a full meeting. All the leaders of the great houses will be present." "What will they decide?" asked. "That you are too much trouble," Castellan said. He did not hide the truth anymore. There was no point. "You are no longer a valuable piece to move across the board of politics. You have become a liability. The council will vote to remove you from the line of succession. They will give the throne to your brother. Your father will have to accept this, or the council will remove him too." Felt the stone on her chest grow heavier. Being rejected by Suitors was one thing, but to be removed from her entire family, to lose her place in the empire that defined her existence, that was a different kind of death. "Is there no other choice?" she asked. Castellan sat down across from her. For a moment, he looked almost like a grandfather instead of a council advisor. "There is one choice," he said, "but it is a choice that will shame your father more than anything else." "What choice?" asked. "The human species," Castellan said. The words came out slowly. "They are growing strong. The Galactic Council has acknowledged their military power. They have united their world. They are beginning to expand into space. It is unusual, yes. It is unthinkable, perhaps, but it is possible." "Would they accept me?" asked. The question felt strange in her mouth. Humans were barely civilized. They had wars that killed millions. They had only recently stopped destroying their own planet. The idea of marrying a human was mad. But it was a choice. It was not the stone on her chest. It was not the shame of removal from succession. It was not the end of everything. "I do not know," Castellan said honestly. "But perhaps that is the point. The species has decided that you are not good enough for them. Maybe you should find someone who will think you are exactly good enough. Someone who has nothing to lose by saying yes. Someone who might see in you something that our own people cannot see." Looked back at the books of history around her. The old stories, the dead princesses, the wives of empire builders. Tomorrow her life would change forever. Either the council would vote to remove her, or she would take the mad choice. She would reach out to the humans. She would see if there was anyone in that wild, young species who would look at her and not see a broken thing. Captain William Hayes received the message while he was eating breakfast in the Human Command Center. The message came through the official diplomatic channel. The Empire was requesting a meeting. They wanted to discuss a union between human and bloodlines. William had read enough about culture to know this was unusual. They did not make requests like this. They made demands. They gave orders. They did not ask permission. For them to make a request meant something was wrong. He reported to Admiral. She was the highest military officer on the human side of the galaxy. Her face showed no reaction as she read the message. "They are desperate," said. "They do not ask for anything unless they have already lost. This is a princess problem. They cannot find a match for her among their own allies." "Do we take the offer?" William asked. Looked at him carefully. "How old are you, William?" 34, he said. "Stable, no major problems, no serious relationships." "I have never been married," William said. "I have no children. I am clean medically. All my records are good." "Then you are going to be the new face of humanity in the galaxy," said. "You are going to meet a princess. You are going to be polite and respectful, and if they offer you this marriage, you are going to consider it very carefully before saying no. The human race needs this, William. We need to prove that we belong at the table of great powers. We need to show that we can make bonds with the old species. This is bigger than you. This is about all of us." 2 weeks later, William was on a transport ship heading toward the palace station. He had studied everything he could about culture. He knew their customs. He knew their expectations. He knew that they valued strength, intelligence, and genetic purity above all other things. He also knew that he was about to be judged by a people who considered his entire species to be inferior. The palace was enormous. Towers of crystal rose from the station like the fingers of a giant hand reaching toward the stars. The interior was cold and smooth and perfect. Everything was arranged with exact precision. There were no wasted spaces, no decorations that served no purpose. Everything had meaning and function and logic. A servant brought William to a private chamber. He was told to rest. The formal meeting would happen at the evening meal. William sat on a chair that was too hard and tried not to think about the weight of his entire species resting on his shoulders. At the evening meal, he met Emperor. The man was exactly what William expected. Tall, powerful, with eyes that had seen 1,000 years of superiority. Looked at William the way a researcher looks at an insect, with curiosity but not with respect. "The human species has grown faster than we predicted," said. It was not a compliment, it was an observation. "We are adaptable," William said. He had decided before arriving that he would not apologize for being human. "We learn quickly, we work together well, we have come very far in a very short time." "You are children," said bluntly. "Your civilization is an infant, yet you have the confidence of adults. It is interesting." William did not argue. There was no point in arguing with an emperor. Then the princess entered the room. William had seen pictures of. The pictures had not prepared him for the reality. She had violet eyes that seemed to hold the depth of the galaxy itself. Her skin had a faint luminescence that made her seem like she was glowing from the inside. She moved with the careful control of someone who had been trained her entire life to be perfect. And she looked sad. Not angry or cold, but genuinely sad, like something inside her had broken. William stood up when she entered. It was a human custom, but it seemed right in that moment. Looked surprised by the gesture. She was not used to humans moving in her presence. They were usually either stiff with fear or too casual with informality. "Princess," William said, "I am Captain William Hayes of the human military. It is an honor to meet you." "The honor is mutual," said. The words were correct. The protocol was perfect, but her eyes did not match her words. During the meal, William did something that surprised everyone in the room. He actually listened to what's said. He did not interrupt her. He did not talk about himself. He asked questions about history and culture and music. He listened to her answers. He responded to her ideas with real thought, not just courtesy. Was not used to being listened to. William could see it in the way she became more animated. Her answers became longer. Her eyes became brighter. She was coming back to life, like a flower opening in the sun. At the end of the evening, Emperor seemed less dismissive of William. Not friendly, but less dismissive. "You will stay in the palace for 1 week," said. "During this time, you will spend time with my daughter. You will demonstrate whether the human species is capable of understanding values and culture. At the end of 1 week, you will both be asked whether you wish to proceed with a marriage agreement." William nodded. He understood the test. He was being evaluated as much as he was evaluating the situation. That night he did not sleep. He walked the halls of the palace and thought about what it said. This was bigger than him. This was about all of humanity. He had to be perfect. He had to prove that humans were worthy. But there was something else too. There was the sadness in her eyes. There was the way she had come alive when someone finally listened to her. William did not know yet that he would spend the next week learning that the princess was more than just a political piece. He did not know that she would teach him about a culture that valued perfection above compassion. He did not know that he would begin to understand why all those other suitors had rejected her. And he did not know that he would reject everything his people expected of him. But on that first night, walking through the crystal halls of the palace, he began to wonder if maybe there was something more important than proving humanity was worthy. Maybe there was something more important than political alliances and military strategy. Maybe there was the simple human act of seeing someone else and recognizing their value, even when the whole galaxy said they were worthless. The week ahead would change everything. William woke early the next morning. A servant came to his room and told him that Princess had requested to show him the palace gardens. This was unusual. Royal princesses did not typically spend time with visiting suitors without formal arrangements, but had said that and William should spend time together, so the request was allowed. The gardens were unlike anything William had ever seen. On Earth, gardens were made with plants that needed soil and water and sunlight. The gardens were different. They grew crystal flowers that created their own light. The plants were made of a material that looked like metal but moved like living things. Everything in the garden was perfectly arranged in patterns that seemed to follow mathematical rules. Walked through the garden with William. She was not wearing formal clothing today. Her dress was simpler and she moved more freely. She still had the careful control of someone trained in protocol, but there was something softer about her now. "This garden has not been used by the royal family for 200 years, said. "My great-great-grandmother created it, but after she died, my family did not come here anymore. It was maintained by the palace servants, but no one actually walked through it." "Why did your family stop coming?" William asked. "Because it was built without purpose," said. She stopped beside a crystal flower that was glowing soft blue. "The garden serves no political function. It produces nothing useful. It has no military value. By logic, it was a waste of resources and time." William looked at the garden with new understanding. It was beautiful. It was completely unnecessary. It was exactly what humans did all the time. Humans created things just to be beautiful. Humans wasted resources on art and music and gardens that served no purpose except to make life worth living. "I like that it serves no purpose," William said. "That makes it perfect." Looked at him with surprise. "You value things that are pointless." "We value things that make us happy," William said. "Beauty, art, music, nature. On Earth, we have spent millions of years creating beautiful things even though they do not help us survive or gain power. We think that is what separates us from being just another animal species." They walked deeper into the garden, showed him the different sections. There was an area where the crystal plants sang when the wind moved through them. There was a path where the ground beneath your feet would glow brighter if you walked slowly and dimmer if you hurried. Every section had been designed to encourage a different kind of feeling. "Did your grandmother design all of this?" William asked. "Yes," said. "She was not interested in politics or military strategy. She spent her life creating beauty. The council considered her a disappointment to the family. She was a princess who cared nothing for power." William was beginning to understand something about. She was not like her people. Or maybe she was too much like her great-great-grandmother. She valued things that the culture had decided were worthless. That was why the suitors rejected her. That evening they ate dinner alone in a private chamber, told William about all the suitors who had come before him. She did not cry when she told the stories. She simply stated the facts. They had said she was too fragile. They had said she could not survive their trials. They had said her genetic line was not pure enough. "I do not understand why you are telling me these things," William said carefully. "Does it not hurt to speak about them?" "Of course it hurts," said, "but I am tired of pretending that it does not. I am tired of being strong all the time. The other suitors wanted a princess. They wanted me to be perfect and powerful and exactly what their species required. They did not want to know that I was hurting. They did not want to know that I was afraid." William reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was cool, but it was real. "I am not here because my empire sent a perfect specimen," he said. "I am here because my people thought it would be good for our species to form an alliance with yours, but that is not why I stayed." "Why did you stay?" asked. "Because I met you," William said, "and I saw that you were not what they wanted you to be. I saw that you were something different, and then I realized that I liked what you were more than I liked what they wanted you to be." Over the next few days, William spent every available moment together. They walked through the crystal gardens. They sat in the library and read old poetry. William taught about human history and human art and the strange way that humans celebrated their own failures and mistakes. Taught William about the weight of expectation. She told him what it was like to spend your entire life being shaped and molded to fit into a specific role. She told him what it felt like to fail at that role so completely that your own people began to see you as broken. William told her stories about Earth. He told her about the wars that humans had fought with each other. He told her that humans were not perfect, that humans were often cruel and selfish and small, but that humans also had a capacity for love that seemed to have no limit. Humans loved things even when it made no sense. Humans sacrificed themselves for people they barely knew. Humans created beauty even in the darkest times. "My people think that love is weakness," said on the fourth day. "They believe that emotional attachment creates vulnerability. A strong bloodline should not be interested in love. Love is a distraction." "What do you think?" William asked. "I think my great-great-grandmother was right," said. "I think that a life without beauty and love is not a life worth living. I think that being perfect and powerful means nothing if you are alone inside your own mind all the time." On the fifth day, Emperor called them both to his private chamber. The formal one-week period was ending. It was time for them to decide. "William Hayes of Humanity," said formally, "your empire has requested that you be given the option to enter into a marriage union with my daughter. Do you accept this union?" William looked at. She was watching him with her violet eyes, and in those eyes he saw something that his entire civilization had sent him to find: hope. "I accept," William said. Said to his daughter, "Do you accept this union?" For a moment did not answer. The silence felt very long. William could see the struggle in her face. She had been raised to think that marrying a human was impossible, that it was beneath her bloodline, that it was a mistake. Then she looked at William, and her violet eyes were clear. "I accept," she said. Emperor's expression did not change, but something shifted in his posture. The decision had been made, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Galactic Council met in emergency session 72 hours after William and announced their intention to marry. The meeting was held through holographic transmission, which meant that the leaders of every major species appeared in the chamber simultaneously. Their images filled the room with light and anger and disapproval. Chancellor of the Collective spoke first. His voice was sharp and cutting like metal. "This is unacceptable. The Empire has always maintained the highest standards of genetic compatibility. A union between a royal and a human is a violation of everything we have agreed to in the Galactic Council." "The union violates nothing," Emperor said calmly. He sat in his seat with the confidence of a ruler who had already made his final decision. "The princess has reached her age of consent according to all law. She has made her choice freely. No Galactic Council member has authority over internal matters." "But this affects the entire galactic order," said Speaker of the. His crystalline form caught the light as he gestured with agitation. "If the bloodline begins to mix with inferior species, it weakens the entire power structure of the known galaxy. This action threatens the stability of all our civilizations." William sat in the observation area. He was not an official member of the council, so he could not speak, but he could listen. And as he listened, he began to understand exactly what was giving up. This marriage was not just about love. It was about challenging the entire structure of galactic civilization. For 10,000 years, the great species had maintained their power by keeping their bloodlines pure. They believed that this purity was what made them superior. This belief was not new. It was the foundation of everything they had built. And now was destroying that foundation. "The Empire will face sanctions," said. "All trade agreements will be suspended. Access to the genetic databases will be revoked. Your seat in the Galactic Council will be forfeit until this mistake is corrected." "Corrected?" Leaned forward. "You speak as though my daughter is a mistake. She is not. She is the product of 10,000 years of evolution. She is brilliant, strong, and capable. That she has chosen a human partner does not make her less than she was. That this council rejects her choice makes the council less than it was. You are choosing your daughter over your civilization, said coldly. I am choosing both, replied, because I believe that a civilization that rejects love and choice and individual freedom is not a civilization worth protecting. The holographic images flickered as the council members began to argue amongst themselves. Some called for stronger sanctions. Some suggested military intervention. Some proposed that the human delegation be removed from galactic space entirely. But underneath all of this, William heard something else. He heard fear. The great species were afraid. They were afraid that if the bloodline mixed with humans, if one of the ancient powers chose love over genetic purity, then the entire system would collapse. That is exactly what would happen, William realized. And not because humans were stronger or better, but because they had proven something dangerous to the old species. They had proven that there was another way. The meeting ended without resolution. The council could impose sanctions, but they could not stop the marriage. Law was clear, had checked with the legal advisors. As long as both parties consented, and as long as both parties were old enough according to their respective species standards, the union could proceed. After the council meeting, William went to find. She was in the crystal gardens again. She was sitting beside the blue flower and she was not crying, but she looked like she wanted to. Your father just sacrificed his entire civilization's status in the Galactic Council, William said. He lost everything for this marriage. I know, said. Do you understand what this means? William asked. The people will lose trade with most of the galaxy. Your economy will suffer. Your military power will be reduced. Your influence will diminish. I know, repeated. Why did he do it? William asked. He needed to understand. Looked up at him with her violet eyes. Because he realized that a civilization that would reject me based on my choice of partner is not a civilization worth defending. My father has spent 50 years believing that power and genetic purity were the highest values. He has just realized that they are not. The news spread through the empire like fire. Half the population was outraged. They believed that the princess had betrayed her people. They believed that she should be removed from the line of succession. They believed that the emperor had made a mistake. But the other half of the population began to think about what choice meant. They began to think about love and freedom and the right to choose your own path. They began to realize that their civilization had been built on a very narrow understanding of what it meant to be valuable. The council members began to break ranks. The first crack came from the speaker came to privately and said that they would continue their trade agreements with, not as a political statement, he explained, but because the economic damage to both species was unacceptable. The Galactic Council did not need to agree. Each species could make their own decisions. One by one, other species followed. They maintained trade. They sent a military delegation to honor the wedding. The merchants from a dozen minor species began arriving at the station, ready to do business regardless of what the council said. Within 2 weeks, the sanctions had effectively fallen apart. Within a month, the Galactic Council voted to reinstate the Empire's seat, though some council members remained unhappy about the decision. But more importantly, something else had shifted. Other young members of the great species began to think about their own freedom. A female began a relationship with a male. A male from the warrior caste married a mate from the merchant class instead of following the traditional power-based pairing system. The rigid structure of galactic civilization was beginning to crack. And at the center of it all was one human captain and one princess who had simply decided that love was worth more than power. On the day of the wedding, stood beside his daughter. He had not lost everything as the council threatened. Instead, he had gained something that mattered more. He had a daughter who was happy. He had a civilization that was beginning to question its own assumptions. He had shown the galaxy that there was another way to be. "Are you ready?" asked. "I am terrified," said honestly. "I am giving up everything I have known. I am marrying someone from a species that my people taught me to see as inferior. I am defying 10,000 years of tradition." "Yes," said, "you are doing all of that, and you are doing it anyway." "Yes," confirmed, "I am doing it anyway." "Then you are braver than any warrior in the galaxy," said. He kissed his daughter on the forehead, a gesture of affection that was unusual in culture. "Go be happy. That is all your father wants for you now." William and were married in the observation gardens under the open sky. It was not a traditional ceremony. There was no genetic compatibility testing. There was no formal declaration of bloodline strength. Instead, the ceremony was designed by both of them together, mixing human and traditions. William wore a uniform that had been modified to include elements of formal dress, wore a white gown that had been designed by her great-great-grandmother, the woman who had built the Crystal Gardens. The dress was beautiful and completely impractical. It served no function except to be beautiful. This was exactly why I had chosen it. Emperor stood as witness. So did Admiral, who had come from Earth to see what her species had achieved. The crowd included nobles who were still uncertain about this union, human military officers who were proud of William's courage, and diplomatic representatives from 7 different species who had come to observe something historic. When William kissed for the first time as his wife, the assembled group erupted in celebration. Some of them clapped in the human style, which they had learned from William. Some of the humans attempted the gesture of respect, which involved bowing from the waist while keeping their eyes fixed on the person being honored. It was awkward and beautiful and exactly right. After the wedding, William moved to a residence that was partially on the station and partially on a human-controlled space station nearby. They created something that had never existed before. A place where 2 very different people could live together and build a life that honored both their cultures. Began to learn human customs. She learned to cook simple meals using Earth ingredients that William brought from the human station. She learned human music and discovered that she preferred it to the mathematical precision of symphonies. She learned to value things that were imperfect and asymmetrical and beautiful because they were flawed. William learned ways. He studied their history and their philosophy. He learned to understand the logic that governed their civilization. But he also helped teach that logic was not the only value that mattered, that love and beauty and freedom were also valuable, that a society could be powerful without being rigidly controlled. 6 months after the wedding, went to the medical center for a routine examination. She had not been feeling well. Her stomach was upset. She was tired more easily than usual. William went with her, and he sat in the examination room while the doctors ran their tests. The head doctor, a female named, looked at the results with visible shock. She ran the tests again. Then she looked at William and with an expression that mixed impossibility with wonder. "You are pregnant," said Tu. "It should not be possible. Our genetic analysis showed that human and DNA were too different. The combination should not create a viable life form." "But I am pregnant," said. It was not a question. "Yes," confirmed. "And the fetus appears to be healthy. All the diagnostic scans show normal development. This should not be happening, and yet it is." When the news reached the Galactic Council, it caused another emergency session. This time, the reaction was different. This was not just about choice or freedom or defying tradition. This was about the proof that something impossible had become possible. William watched from Earth as scientists requested to study the pregnancy. They wanted to understand the genetic mechanism that allowed human and DNA to combine. They wanted to know if this could happen with other species. The breakthrough suggested that the entire genetic structure of the galaxy was more flexible than anyone had believed. Some council members were still angry. Some still believed that the union was a mistake, but they could not deny the reality. Life was growing inside, a new being that was part human and part, a living bridge between two species. When the birth came, it happened on the human side of the residence. Wanted her baby to be born in a place that honored both her cultures, but she also wanted human doctors present. William held her hand through the labor, and for the first time, he saw that being brave meant being willing to be vulnerable. It meant being willing to let someone see your pain and fear and still stay beside you. Their daughter was born at dawn. She had violet eyes and William's dark hair. She had skin that seemed to glow slightly with the soft luminescence of genetics, but there was something else too. Something that was completely new, something that neither species had ever created before. Held her daughter and began to cry. These were not tears of sadness or pain. These were tears that came from the deep place inside a person where joy and fear and love all mixed together. "We need to name her," said, "a name that is both human and—" "What do you want to call her?" William asked. Hope said, "I want to call her Hope." When the Galactic Council learned the name of the new hybrid child, it sparked intense debate. Some argued that the name was too symbolic, that it created unrealistic expectations, that it was trying to tell a story that was not yet proven. But others began to understand something profound. This child represented something that the galaxy had lost. It represented the belief that things could change, that the rigid structures of galactic civilization did not have to last forever, that there was always the possibility of something new emerging from the combination of different species and different ways of thinking. William looked at his daughter and his wife, and he understood why his civilization had sent him across the galaxy. It was not to prove that humans were superior or strong or worthy of respect. Those things were not the point. The point was to show that there was another way to be, a way that valued love and freedom and choice over power and genetic purity and rigid control. His daughter had violet eyes like her mother. She had human resilience like her father. She was the first of a new kind of being, and she was beautiful not because she was perfect, but because she was real. The empire slowly began to change. Not immediately, not all at once, but gradually the young people of the species began to question the old rules. They began to ask why they had to accept the marriages that were arranged for them. They began to create gardens instead of weapons. They began to choose love instead of power. And it all started because one princess had been rejected by every powerful suitor in the galaxy, and a human captain had come forward and said that she was exactly good enough. Emperor lived to see his granddaughter grow into a child. He saw her take her first steps. He heard her speak her first words. And before he died, he called William into his chamber and told them something he had never told anyone else. "I was wrong," said. "I spent 50 years believing that power and genetic purity were the highest values. I spent 50 years teaching my daughter that she was not good enough. And then I met you, William Hayes. And I learned that the most powerful thing a person can do is choose love. That the strongest bloodline is not the one that is genetically pure, but the one that is created from genuine connection between two people." After died, his brother became emperor, but he ruled differently than his father had. He opened the libraries to other species. He created trade agreements based on fairness instead of dominance. He allowed young to choose their own paths instead of forcing them into predetermined roles. And on the day that the new hybrid child took her first steps, the Galactic Council officially acknowledged that a new era had begun. Not an era of human dominance, not an era of superiority, but an era where different species could choose to stand together, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to. William and his daughter, Hope, grew up in a galaxy that was slowly learning to be less rigid and more loving. She learned both human and languages. She studied both species' histories and philosophies. And as she grew, she began to understand the true power that her parents had given her. Not power over others, but power to choose, power to be free, power to create something new that had never existed before. In the end, the story of the princess who was rejected became the story of a civilization that was transformed. And it all started with one human captain who looked at a girl that everyone else had rejected and said simply, "You are exactly good enough."